Billy Budd, an inside narrative dedicated to Jack Chase, Englishman, wherever that great heart may now be here on earth or harbored in a paradise, captain of the main top in the year 1843 in the U.S. frigate United States. Preface. The year 1797. The year this narrative, 1797, belongs to a period which, as every thinker now feels, involved a crisis for Christendom, not exceeded in its undetermined momentousness at the time by any other era whereof there is record. The opening proposition made by the spirit of that age involved rectification of the old world's hereditary wrongs. In France, to some extent, this was bloodily effected. But what then? Straightway the revolution itself became a wrongdoer, one more oppressive than the kings. Under Napoleon it enthroned upstart kings and initiated that prolonged agony of continual war whose final throe was Waterloo. During those years, not the wisest could have foreseen that the outcome of all would be what to some thinkers apparently it has since turned out to be, a political advance along nearly the whole line for Europeans. Now, as elsewhere hinted, it was something caught from the revolutionary spirit that at Spithead emboldened the man of war's men to rise against real abuses, long-standing ones, and afterwards at the Nore to make inordinate and aggressive demands, successful resistance to which was confirmed only when the ringleaders were hung for an admonitory spectacle to the anchored fleet, yet in a way analogous to the operation of the revolution at hand. The Great Mutiny, though by Englishmen naturally deemed monstrous at the time, doubtless gave the first latent prompting to most important reforms in the British Navy. So we'll continue Billy Budd in a second. I just want to kind of give a quick little overview. It's Herman Melville, and he also wrote that one thing about the whale. What was that one thing about the whale? Moby Dick. So Herman Melville also wrote about that damn whale. I think he killed himself too. It's interesting. It was after he was dead and gone that people started rediscovering him. So why couldn't they appreciate Herman Melville during his lifetime? I don't know. But this story, the main story is you're going to have Billy Budd. You're going to have the handsome sailor who's going to go into, a brand new fucking Navy ship, battle, fucking destroyer or whatever. So a sailor joins his outfit. And when he joins, immediately, he's charismatic. He's loved by all. But there's an old Jimmy Legs. Old goddamn Jimmy Legs was an old piece of shit that was just, maybe decent in some respects, but was just old, washed up, had no soul, didn't have that youthful vigor that Billy Budd had. And he was, some sort of authoritarian, he had a smidgen of authority or some shit. Anyways, old Jimmy Legs tries to fuck Billy Budd over and accuses Billy Budd of talking about mutiny or some shit. Now, Billy Budd is just all pissed off and he can't even express himself. He's so goddamn pissed off. He's just so pissed off that somebody would even accuse some bullshit. So Jimmy Legs accuses Billy Budd of mutiny to, some commanding officer. Billy Budd gets all pissed off, doesn't know how to articulate himself, hits old Jimmy Legs, kills Jimmy Legs. And then there's several chapters talking about whether or not we should hang and kill Billy Budd for killing Jimmy Legs. Not for the mutiny, but for punching Jimmy Legs and then killing Jimmy Legs. So, why would old man Jimmy Legs try to fuck over Billy Budd? Lots of reasons, right? Evil people will do. But we see this theme actually over and over again in our own daily lives, and the younger generation is replacing us, right? The older generation gets all freaked out. They think the younger generation, isn't that Oedipus complex, isn't that the whole thing about the Oedipus complex? Oh my God, the younger generation is going to replace us. How about you maintain your spot and then the younger generation, goes over there. So Louis C.K., Lion King, And Abraham and Isaac. I got 3 examples of when the older generation tried to fuck over the younger generation. The older, washed up, dead in the fucking soul, emptied out husk generation tried to fuck over the infinitely spiritual and invigorated. Louis C.K., he tried to sabotage Jimmy Fallon, and he was bragging about it. Louis C.K. was bragging to Jimmy Fallon on the Jimmy Fallon Show. He's got the Tonight Show. But apparently Louis C.K. was some backdoor writer or some shit. Jimmy Fallon was up and coming. He did some sort of skit where he was like shaking his butt. Louis C.K. was all pissed off because he's just this old, disgusting, washed up old fucking fart. And he's watching Jimmy Fallon and he's thinking, well, shit, I know you were going to succeed. I know you were going to do well. But I wondered, what if Louis C.K., I think he did sabotage him. He didn't give him the recommendation, wherever. He didn't come back for that fucking thing that he was doing at the time. Eventually, Jimmy Fallon goes to Saturday Night Live and then the Tonight Show. Specific details, I don't know. I just know that Louis C.K. tried to sabotage Jimmy Fallon. And there's no rhyme or reason about it. And in fact, he's bragging about it because, there might be a joke here. Hey, remember that time I was old, washed up piece of shit and I tried to fuck over your career before you even began? Louis C.K. was old Jimmy Legs. Jimmy Fallon was Billy Budd. Now you also have Lion King, Scar and Simba. Why is Scar trying to fuck over Simba? Scar was able to get rid of Mufasa, but Simba was the legacy, the progeny of Mufasa. So since that was, just clear royalist, Simba was going to inherit all the land and Scar, the uncle, was just going to be passed over. So essentially because he wasn't next in line, he's the brother, but that's not the way the thing goes. It goes, to, if the king did not have any sons, it would go to the brother. But pretty much Scar was not going to become king. Saw Simba was going to become king. Was mad, pissed off, jealous. Got rid of Mufasa. Told Simba to run far away, run far away. So why did old washed up Scar tell Simba? Because he was afraid of being replaced. Thought Simba was going to, rule over the kingdom. And who was Scar? Just chopped liver? Who was Scar? Just a monkey's uncle. And then last but not least, you got Abraham and Isaac. And I got a quick little cartoon here. Yeah, weird. Abraham is even considering killing his own son Isaac. But God told him to murder his own son because it's what the God of Abraham is all about.
Father, the knife.
Hey, Papa, don't forget the murder weapon, the weapon that you're going to kill me with. Very good, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac.
Following your command has always given me strength.
All right, so I'm just going to... There's another one I watched, and, it was like on the Disney series, but it was... A lamb walks by, because it was like, God will provide us... Hey, Father, we have all this wood... But where is the lamb? What are we sacrificing? Don't worry, Isaac. God will provide a sacrifice for us. And then he's about to kill Isaac, and then all of a sudden he looks off to the side, and there's a little bleeding sheep. A little bleeding lamb. A nice little adorable pure lamb. And it was like, woof. Thank goodness that adorable pure lamb came on the scene so he could murder it so he could waste the blood and flesh of a lamb instead of the blood and flesh of his own blood and flesh. So, okay. God damn, what the fuck? We see this shit over and over again. That's wicked as fuck. God, the God of Abraham is a wicked piece of shit. Because essentially he's saying, Abraham, I don't know if I could trust you, Abraham. You go over there and kill your kids. And I want to see how much I can trust you. When you're willing to kill your kids, then I'll trust you. When you're willing to murder your kids in my name, then I will trust you. God, that's, you're not God. You're the fucking devil. That's some devil shit. That's wicked as fuck. Because what God would say, no, you need to kill your own son. This is the devil. And what God would do is trick you. God would say, you need to go kill your own kids. Kill your wife and kids, right? Isn't that what that white guy in fucking Colorado? I mean, he was just doing what maybe God told him to do it, right? So he was just being an Abraham guy. He was just being an Abrahamic religious kind of guy. Abraham, and who knows if Abraham is even real and any of this is even real. But God would test you and say, do this so you wouldn't do it. And if you did it, then that meant you were wicked. So God, it was a test and you fucking failed. Hey, Abraham, for me, God, Lord, God, the good God, Lord, you need to go kill your kids. Yeah, just go kill your kids. No. You passed. You passed. And also, it's kind of weird. It was kind of like, well, shit. God said I gotta do it. That's all she wrote, huh? God said I had to. God said I had to. Reminds me of, what's that one book? Not Mutiny on the Bounty, but about World War I, Cantoric. All Quiet on the Western Front. All Quiet on the Western Front. That damn teacher, because the kids believed in authority, told them to join the war effort, and they joined the war effort, and then they saw a lot of bloodshed and trauma and shit, and then eventually Cantoric, the damn teacher, is going to get drafted into the thing, and that's interesting, because how come you didn't join the war effort? You told all of us to join, and then he was weak. He sucked at being a fucking soldier. You told us all to fucking, that's because they believed in authority. But it turned out the authority figure was a douchebag who couldn't do shit and sucked terribly. So, in the time before steamships, or then more frequently than now, a stroller along the docks of any considerable seaport would occasionally have his attention arrested by a group of bronze mariners. Man-of-war's men or merchant sailors in holiday attire ashore on liberty. In certain instances, they would flank or like a bodyguard, quite surround some superior figure of their own class, moving along with them like Aldebaran among the lesser lights of his constellation. Aldebaran constellation. That signal object was the handsome sailor of the less prosaic time alike of the military and merchant navies, with no perceptible trace of the vainglorious about him, rather with the offhand unaffectedness of natural regality. He seemed to accept the spontaneous homage of his shipmates. A somewhat remarkable instance recurs to me. In Liverpool, now half a century ago, I saw under the shadow of the great dingy street wall of Prince's Dock an obstruction long since removed, a common native African of the unadulterate blood of Ham, a symmetric figure much above the average height. The two ends of a gray silk handkerchief thrown loose about the neck danced upon the displayed ebony of his chest. In his ears were big hoops of gold, and a Scotch Highland bonnet with a tartan band set off his shapely head. It was a hot noon in July, and his face, lustrous with perspiration, beamed with barbaric good humor. In jovial sallies right and left, his white teeth flashing into view, he rollicked along the center of a company of his shipmates. These were made up of such an assortment of tribes and complexions as would have well fitted them to be marched up by an Anarcharsis Klutz before the bar of the first French Assembly, as representatives of the human race, at each spontaneous tribute rendered by the wayfarers to this black pagoda of a fellow, the tribute of a pause and stare, and less frequent an exclamation. The motley retinue showed that they took that sort of pride in the evoker of it which the Assyrian priests doubtless showed for their grand sculptured bull when the faithful prostrated themselves to return. If in some cases a bit of the nautical Murat in setting forth his person ashore, the handsome sailor of the period in question evinced nothing of the dandified Billy be Damn, an amusing character, all but extinct now, but occasionally to be encountered, and in a form yet more amusing than the original, at the tiller of the boats on the tempestuous Erie Canal, or more likely vaporing in the groggeries along the towpath. Invariably, a proficient in his perilous calling, he was also more or less of a mighty boxer or wrestler. It was strength and beauty. Tales of his prowess were recited. Ashore he was the champion, afloat the spokesman on every suitable occasion, always foremost, close reefing topsails in a gale. There he was, astride the weather, yard, arm, end, foot in the Flemish horse as stirrup, both hands tugging at the earring as at a bridle, and very much the attitude of young Alexander, curbing the fiery Bucephalus, a superb figure, tossed up as by the horns of Taurus against the thunderous sky, cheerily hallowing to the strenuous file along the spar. The moral nature was seldom out of keeping with the physical make. Indeed, except as toned by the former, the comeliness and power, always attractive in masculine conjunction, hardly could have drawn the sort of honest homage the handsome sailor in some examples received from his less gifted associates. Such a sinister, at least in aspect, and something such too in nature, though with important variations made apparent as the story proceeds, was welcome-eyed Billy Budd, or Baby Budd, as more familiarly under circumstances herein to be given, he at last came to be called. Aged 21, a foretopman of the British fleet toward the close of the last decade of the 18th century, it was not very long prior to the time of the narration that follows that he had entered the king's service, having been impressed on the narrow seas from a homeward bound English merchantman and to a 74 outward bound HMS Indomitable, which ship, as was not unusual in those hurried days, had been obliged to put to sea short of her proper complement of men. Obliged to put to sea short of a proper complement of men. Obliged to put to sea short of her proper complement of men.